The Virginia legislature has gone off the deep end regarding gun control. The Congressional Budget Office released a sobering report on the national debt, and President Trump isn't a racist after all. But the media keeps saying he is. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Friday. I hope you're having a great week. This one has flown by. I'm ready for the weekend, ready to watch the Super Bowl. But let's dive into some news first. And I want to start with what's going on in Virginia, because we've covered this a number of times. I've covered Governor Ralph Northam, whether it's gun control or his abortion stance, weird statements, blackface, you name it, coming from him. Well, now they've got the legislature is controlled by Democrats, and they're running wild, and especially when it comes to gun control. So this week, their House passed a number of gun control measures. The governor's all excited, but the people of Virginia are very upset. And here's a report from the Daily Caller. It says, the Virginia House of Delegates approved a series of gun control laws Thursday, just over a week after Second Amendment activists staged massive protests at the state capitol of Richmond. The legislation included universal background checks, red flag laws, and a law limiting citizens of the Commonwealth to one firearm purchase a month, according to ABC News. Democratic Virginia Governor Ralph Northam has made gun control a top priority since Democrats took control of the state legislature last November. So that's the report. When this passed out of the House, of course, Governor Northam took to Twitter. He tweeted this. He said, the Virginia House of Delegates just passed 7 of our common sense gun safety bills, including universal background checks and a red flag law. Make no mistake, these measures will save lives. Save lives? With these measures, they are making the state less safe. They are turning people into targets. This is what they're doing, and they're violating their Second Amendment rights. It's just not the way to go, and it does not have the support of the people in that state. Here's more from the Daily Caller. The measures were passed despite widespread opposition to gun control in the state. 91 of 95 counties in the Commonwealth have designated themselves sanctuary counties for the Second Amendment, and some sheriffs in the state have pledged to not enforce laws they believe violate their citizens' constitutional rights. Democratic Virginia Attorney General Mark Herring declared last month that the decrees issued by these counties have no force of law because localities do not have the right to declare state laws unconstitutional. The law's passage will likely spark more protests like the one we saw Monday in Richmond, where 22,000 people protested proposed gun control laws. So earlier this week, Virginia State Senator Amanda Chase was on Fox News talking about this, talking about these bills that were about to come out of the House. And here's what she was asked.
Why is it you believe that this is the tip of the iceberg on the assault on the Second Amendment rights and it has a nationwide impact?
Yes, these laws do have a nationwide impact. They have ramifications across the entire country. And here's how she replied.
Whatever happens in Virginia, could very well happen in the rest of the state, the rest of the country. And so that's why it's important that we don't back down. The grassroots movement here in Virginia, we won't.
Yes, it all starts with the grassroots, and the grassroots is something that the left, over time, and especially now we see, they continue to disregard, to discount, and minimize, and yet it's grassroots that helped get President Trump elected. It's the grassroots outrage that is turning back on some of these left-wing policies. President Trump has given grassroots activists and legislators and leaders in Washington who are spineless more political courage to step up and say, this isn't right, because the left will steamroll. They do not argue their positions. They don't care if their positions are even false. All they care about is winning and advancing their agenda, and they will steamroll anyone who gets in the way, and usually people just step out of the way. Now people are fighting back, and it's good for those counties in Virginia to take a stand, and hopefully that stance is what spreads, and not bogus legislation that's coming out of the Democrat-controlled government in Virginia. So next, I want to talk about the national debt, because it is out of control. Our budget deficits are out of control. And the Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, issued a report this week that said basically things have to change. We have to go in a different direction. Otherwise, we can tax all we want. It will not matter. We will not get out of this. So the folks over at the Washington Examiner analyzed the CBO report, put an editorial together, which was really informative, really good. And here's part of that. It says, this week, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office delivered the sort of bad news that Washingtonians routinely shrug off, even though it should make them feel like their hair is on fire. In less than 10 years, the agency predicts that Uncle Sam will run annual deficits closer to $2 trillion than the current $1 trillion per year, and that's assuming that all of the temporary tax cuts in the 2007 tax reform law are allowed to expire. So, what's causing this problem? These ballooning deficits, the increased national debt? Is it the tax cuts? No, we'll get into that. Is it wasteful government spending? Of course, but that's just a small portion of it. And here's more from the Washington Examiner. It's useless to blame either the recent tax cuts, revenues have actually increased in the time since, or the government's garden variety wasteful spending. The increase in the deficit and all the nation's future fiscal woes are tied to Congress's inability to tackle entitlement reform. As the Manhattan Institute's Brian Reidel pointed out, the annual shortfall in Medicare and Social Security costs, currently at $440 billion, will rise to $1.9 trillion by 2030. Between now and 2049, these two programs combined are projected to pay out $63 trillion more than they will take in. All right, those are staggering numbers right there. But the Democrats, one, Republicans need political courage to try and change things, but the Democrats, not only do they not want to change things, they want to add to this, thinking that we can tax our way out of this. Well, guess what? You can tax the rich at 100%. You will not be able to pay for this. And here's more. Politicians who hold forthright, sanguine hopes of forgiving student debt or changing the weather with 93 trillion Green New Deals must understand at some point that their priorities will lose when the nation's entire tax revenue, no matter how high taxes go on the wealthy, is exhausted just in cutting checks for the elderly and their healthcare providers. Once the nation reaches the point where tax increases are needed just to keep entitlements funded, there won't be anyone left to raise taxes on to pay for new programs. So we need to cut spending. Obviously, I want to see Republicans actually put forward a budget that is lower than the year before. That is cutting spending. If you are in a budget crisis, you spend less. You don't slow down the rate that you're increasing, you spend less. And that's what I want to see out of Republicans. But Republicans and Democrats need to come together and reform these entitlements. Otherwise, it's unsustainable. And the American people, anytime you hear Bernie Sanders talk about Medicare for all or Elizabeth Warren talk about Medicare for all, you need to know that what they want is to transform this country into a socialist country, which you see the results. You see Venezuela, you see other countries. It's not sustainable. It's not good for the people. It takes freedom away, puts power in the government, and the countries collapse. This is what they want, and we cannot afford it. So we need political courage out of the Republicans. We need to elect people that are willing to tackle entitlement reform, and hopefully we can get there with some of this new crop that is running this time around. So next I want to give you an impeachment update because there was a lot going on yesterday, and today may actually be the big day where the vote will happen on whether to call witnesses to hear witness testimony. If that fails, then it's basically over. It's a done deal. And we'll talk about some late-breaking developments that happened last night. But yesterday, some of the highlights were basically Rand Paul getting shut down by Chief Justice John Roberts because he wants to dig into the whistleblower. You know, the person who brought all of this up, the person who has remained in hiding, the person that Trump and his team can't cross-examine. You have the accused not being able to address the accuser. And this is supposed to be America, and this person is being shielded. So John King over at CNN actually agreed with the Republican take on this. It was amazing. Here's part of what he said.
Republicans make a good point. The whistleblower started all this. Why has the whistleblower never been questioned? Shouldn't the House Democrats have found a secure way to do that? It's a legitimate point of debate as we go through this.
So, of course, the whistleblower should be questioned. Again, what kind of country is this where the accused can't address the accuser? And King said more.
Is outing the whistleblower in a public setting the way to make your point? I think we could have a conversation about that. This process is broken. There's no trust between the two parties. It is perfectly legitimate that the Democrats' argument is just about everything the whistleblower alleged has been proven through other sources, so we don't need to do this. But you're asking the Congress, the Senate now, to remove the President of the United States. It's a legitimate point for the President's team of the Republicans to say, shouldn't we go to the very origin of this?
Yes, you should definitely go to the origin of all this. But better yet, we shouldn't have this at all. This impeachment is so political. No laws have been broken, breaking every precedent that's existed since the Johnson impeachment, since the Clinton impeachment. Now it's just for political purposes. You don't like the president, you don't like his policies, they vote to impeach him. And that is a terrible precedent. And that is what the Democrats laid wide open, saying, yep, that's basically what we're doing. None of our witnesses that we even called said there were impeachable offenses. They just didn't like they thought it was weird the way the president was doing things. And this has led to all of this, millions of dollars wasted. And the president is going to be acquitted and business as usual until the Democrats try their next scheme. It's just outrageous. So next, I want to move to President Trump and talk about race relations, because President Barack Obama was supposed to come in and just be the cure for race relations. Everyone was going to sing Kumbaya. Everyone was going to get along. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. In my lifetime, there has been no president that has done more to hurt race relations than Barack Obama. With his speeches on Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown and his professor friend, every single time that Barack Obama had a chance to unite people, he incited racial tension. He went out of his way to incite racial tension. And yet, President Trump comes in with a long history of charitable work in minority communities. That's all thrown out the window. The Democrats, the left, paint him as racist. Well, guess what? It's not really bearing out in the stats. We saw that video from the March for Life, thanking President Trump for prison reform, for black unemployment lowering to historic levels, for funding historically black colleges and universities. All of this is making a difference. And here's a report from Political Insider. A new Gallup poll indicates that satisfaction with race relations and the position of minorities in America have significantly increased since President Trump took office. The findings deliver a significant blow to the media-driven fiction that Trump is a racist. Gallup's survey demonstrates numerous categories in which the president has improved the lives of Americans since relieving Barack Obama of his duties in January 2017. So, hey, Democrats, this racist story that you're saying is not actually true.
Well, isn't that special?
And here's some numbers from the Gallup survey. The polling indicates double-digit improvements in how Americans view the nation's economy, security from terrorism, military strength, and the state of race relations. Gallup also reports increases in the position of blacks and other racial minorities, the distribution of income and wealth, and the opportunity for a person to get ahead through hard work. The position of blacks and other racial minorities in the nation rose 9% since Obama's last day in office, while the state of race relations in America shot up 14%. That's amazing. That's awesome. And it's just President Trump delivering on what he said he was going to deliver. So what a week for the Democrats. You have two major narratives that they've been pushing. One, that Trump is a crook, that he's corrupt, that he needs to be removed from office, so we're going to impeach him. And the narrative that President Trump is a racist. In 1 week, they all come together, they're all crumbling, and it shows the Democrats have nothing. Nothing at all. Two major narratives gone just like that. So folks, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, just a little reminder before you go, and no, this does not count against my 13 minutes. Please hit the subscribe button below and tell your friends. And if you happen to miss our last show, you can check it out right here. And also for great conservative news and commentary, please check out GOPUSA.com. All right, folks, we'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.